Well, hi everybody. Welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show on a rare Saturday night. It's the 30th of January, 2021. We had to go we had a little bit of snow this past week. I also had it down in Georgia, but now I'm back in New York because there's no way on earth I was going to miss this, Joe Rayo, with this impending storm system for what could be a long duration event, depending on how this plays out for starting tomorrow in the mid Atlantic states and moving its way up through New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and later Sunday night and into probably part of Tuesday for the areas north and east of there, the way it
You know, I,
looks.
I think, Joe, that in terms of the long duration event, absolutely. And because of the fact that we have the snow around here for such a long time, really, I honestly don't think that we're going to be seeing any long or protracted spell where snow is going to be coming down at the rate of 1 or even 2 inches an hour. In fact, if you average everything out for the whole storm, on average, we'll be seeing snow coming down at maybe about a half or three-quarters of an inch at most. But when you spread that out over more than a 24-hour period, that comes out to be, in some cases,
Quite a bit.
12 inches or more in the most extreme cases. So it is going to be a long-term event. And what really has me a little concerned, a little scary, to see some of the models taking this soon to be developed coastal storm. It hasn't even developed yet, but it's due to start winding up beginning tomorrow night off the mid-Atlantic coast, then moving slowly north and eastward. And it looks like for a time, late Monday afternoon into part of Monday evening, that thing actually idles in neutral gear for several hours a few hundred miles southeast of New York City, and it's there that we might be seeing the most substantial part of the storm in terms of snowfall, because that thing isn't going anywhere, just rolling round and round and round. But again, uncertainties in terms of
Of
the thermal boundaries. I was surprised last night and again today to see the European push the 540 line all the way west from eastern Long Island, practically to New York City. That would suggest to me that there
Hang
could be
on, Joe. I'm
periods of
sorry.
time.
Something's going. There we go. Had a audio issue there. I'm sorry. My fault. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go
No, what
ahead.
I was just saying is that with the 540 line, which is what we usually use to delineate where this rain snow boundary zone is going to be, that 540 line is going to be moving from eastern Long Island all the way by Monday evening to practically New York City, which suggests that there may be several hours or more of sleet and maybe even a change over to plain rain with the
Uh,
snow on
honestly,
coastal
though,
sections.
honestly though, from with respect to that, to those areas that do have that happen, I don't know that that's going to make a big difference because uh, it didn't really make a difference in the December event, and this one actually, in some ways, is kind of like that because here, at least here on Long Island, that wound up being a 2 day event because we got snow all day long on the next day, and
Yeah.
wound up with the totals that most other people that wound up staying all snow. I think this is going to play as you said. So what winds up happening is you get this advection of the warm air advection, snow ahead of it, and particularly for Long Island and Connecticut, that's the one area that might get a burst where it snows for a number of hours at a pretty decent intensity. That'll play out. You'll get this lull gap in the middle where you get some sleet or a little bit of rain or whatever it is. But I think the accumulation, let's use the phrase damage having been done, the accumulations are going to come with that big shot of warm advection. So you get this sort of lull period in between for, I don't even think it'll last more than a few hours. And then as the low starts to make that counterclockwise loop and the wind backs around to the north, you'll see that change over to snow on the backside. And it makes for a very, very difficult and very tricky accumulation forecast because usually those backside snows, they vary. They tend to get bandy. So some areas get it, some places get less, some places get none. And I think this is shaping up for some local upside surprises in some places that are not, you're not going to, it's going to be very hard to forecast that ahead of time. So I'm kind of looking, the way I laid out my snow accumulation forecast map is I decided to use that sort of as a base case and not get too involved with which is the advection snow, which is the snow on the backside, and that there's room for upside here once the backside stuff starts to become part of the equation. That's that's
Absolutely.
that's how I'm playing it.
Absolutely. I believe you 100%. In fact, in my Facebook discussion I posted a few hours ago, I said, as kind of like a disclaimer, this looks like, with all of the uncertainties, this could turn out to be an overperformer based upon what I was looking at, and especially so with that slow movement. And again, the uncertainty of the thermal area, whether or not it's going to go from rain to sleet or snow or rain or whatever. And yeah, the backside event. Well, we've seen a number of storms in our lives, Joe. You and I can remember. Case in point, the blizzard of '78, where it didn't seem to want to end. The
Right.
storm itself, the storm did that curlicule south of Long Island uh, that Monday night of the storm, and here it was now practically sunset on Tuesday, and it was still snowing, and people were getting really concerned, like, when is it going to stop? When is it going to stop? And that's going to be the big question. Some models have shut the snow down as early as first thing Tuesday morning. Others have kept it going through midday, and still others, like the European, seems to be suggesting this thing could be going on, albeit with light snow showers and flurries, all the way till the end of the day on Tuesday.
Sure
It's
thing.
that's going to be the main key to this whole forecast.
And the forecast and the snowfall forecast maps and just about everything you see on this show is brought to you by our friends at Omni True Value Hardware, Long Island's largest uh, rock salt provider and more important source, and more importantly, everything you're going to need with regards to this winter storm servicing the entire tri-state area with all sorts of winter weather gear. 631-756-1125. They're at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon with the best prices in town. And they have all the the popular snow melt products, including what is considered to be the best among the snow removal folks that I work with, Pedalo. And there's OmniMelt, GeoMelt, BioMelt, and so much more. There's your rock salt, and that's what the store looks like outside of 1226 North Wellwood Avenue. So they're ready for the winter storm. So you should be too. And since we're talking about snowfall forecast maps, let's bring up. I'm going to bring up Joe Rayo's snow forecast map. And Joe, before you get started, I actually am with a double monitor tonight. So I am monitoring the chat board. So so be careful what you say. And yeah, you know what, WTS weather, it isn't really cool to come up on another person's YouTube page putting up links to your YouTube video. They don't show up anyway, so don't worry about it. You're wasting your time, okay? And anybody else that decides to do that, you're wasting your time. Your links don't show up. They don't click to anything. So there. All right. Um, Want to welcome, by the way, just very quickly, um, I want to welcome, by the way, those who are joining us from Tri-State Weather, from the Tri-State Facebook Tri-State Weather page, which is, I believe, now 750,000 people strong, Mr. Rayo, and we're glad to have him on board. So thank you
That's a
very
lot of
much, and
that's a lot of
thanks to
meatball.
yes, the meatball page, and thanks to Adam Toxin for sharing our link tonight. He runs that page. He has a partner too, and right now his name is escaping me. It's my apologies, but I'm thanking you too. I think it's Josh. I think. Okay. Okay, your map's up, so have at it.
All right. Well, first of all, on the chat board, Garo Vestas is saying 6 to 10 inches. Does that seem kind of low or no? Well, if you look up here, I say that the projected snowfall map goes till 7 a.m. on Tuesday, Groundhog Day, February 2nd. But I have a little star there, a little asterisk. And what does that mean? Additional snow is possible after 7 a.m. on Tuesday. This is just what I was just talking about. The big question is how long or how much longer will the snow continue past, let's say, daybreak on Tuesday? If we're still snowing through midday, and even if we have leftover flurries and snow showers into the afternoon, there's obviously going to be more than 6 to 10 here. And I just thought, Joe, at least till Tuesday morning, just take a big broad brush and just take a big swath and cover just about everybody in this zone with 6 to 10. I was thinking about a coastal system and being further away from a coastal system as you go up into the upper fringes of the Hudson Valley, 4 to 6 here, and then north of Sullivan and Ulster County, maybe a couple of 4 inches. Now I've seen some maps. Some folks say that they're predicting that there could be more than that, maybe on the order of like 4 to 6 or 4 to 8 as far north and west as up here. But again, uh, to me, there's enough uncertainty just simply to go with this right now. I think the big zone for possible heavy, really heavy snow amounts will be down toward the central part of New Jersey, just far enough away from any possible mixing and just close enough to the storm track to get maybe as much as 10 or more inches, maybe 10, 12, maybe even 15 down here. And again, 6 to 10 up here. And you know what? The one thing we have not mentioned at all yet is the wind. We're talking about winds from the northeast building to 30 and 40 and maybe even gusting past 45 miles an hour. So you combine that with the snows that we're anticipating for Monday into Monday night and part of Tuesday, there's going to be a lot of blowing, a lot of drifting, and there's going to be a lot of drifts that are going to be a heck of a lot higher than 10 or 15 inches. So all in all, this looks like a first-rate, first-class snow event. And for all of you who, as recently as about a week ago, Joe, and you were there, you were here with me, throwing in the towel and saying it's all over, we're done, winter is finished, we're not going to see anything. I don't hear those reverberations anymore.
Where's Smata Mott? Smata, there won't be there won't be a snowstorm. I mean, I shouldn't really say that ahead of time because I don't want to jinx it. But yeah, I mean, this is, if anything, look, I'll just say this, and I've said this before, I'll repeat it again, especially if you're in the forecasting business. You never say never, and you never make unequivocal statements like, we have this, therefore we will never have that, because you know what? Nature finds a way, somehow listens, and then finds a way to really humble you. Okay, so just remember that. Okay, no unequivocal statements. These sort of absolute truths that you think exist. There were so many exceptions to those, and here we were with a blocking pattern, and the blocking fans were jumping up and down, and for the better part of 2 months, we only saw one event out of it because the blocking was so strong. Well, now the block is starting to break down, and it's usually in the time period that the block breaks down. If you get the other pieces of the puzzle is set up right, that's when normally you wind up with something like this. Even if you have a winter where the predominant pattern is not a favorable one. So just bear that in mind. We're only 7 mics. By the way, we're only.
Don't mean to interrupt, but
Good.
I have a feeling that on Monday, a lot of by let's say late Monday afternoon or Monday evening, a lot of places are going to have on the ground maybe 4 or 5 inches or thereabouts, and there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be grumbling and saying, "I thought this was going to be a big storm. Where's the snow? I mean, there's snow out there, but we were hearing about 8 and 10 and 12-inch amounts. Where is it? It's not happening." But again, let us stress that Monday night into maybe early Tuesday is going to be when we're really going to see the snow really intensify and wrap up again with that slowing down effect offshore. And
it's a long duration event.
You may go to bed, with 5, 6 inches or whatever. You wake up the next morning. Wow, it's going to be that kind of a situation. It's going to be slow in getting started, and in fact, we'll probably lose a few hours initially to Virga because the air is so cold and dry over us right now. And so initially, as the snow tries to bang into the tri-state area and bang into that cold, dry air, a lot of it is going to evaporate before making its way down to the ground. I said, Joe, that I was thinking that maybe around 7 or 8 o'clock tomorrow night, central sections of New Jersey will start seeing snow, and then gradually moving north and east, the snow will spread across the rest of the tri-state area. And it may not be until after midnight for parts of the Hudson Valley and northwestern Connecticut to finally see their first flakes. So it's going to take time to punch through that dry air. And again, also remember that we're talking about a developing storm off the mid-Atlantic coast tomorrow evening. The storm is just getting ready to rev up. It's not going to be like a wall of snow heading our way. So it's going to take its time, but eventually it's going to all work out for us. And I think we'll see those really significant snows again later Monday and into Monday night.
Hang
Are
on.
we doing another commercial for Omni
No,
here?
no, no. I'm sorry. It's my fault. I just all my windows just shut down. This is just. I had all these maps up. All my windows wound up shutting down. So just give me a moment here, because this is going to take me a little bit of time to kind of rebuild. So just hang in there. Uh,
And
okay.
while you're doing that, Tim Veltman says, Joe, I think you have the cutoff on the north side too far south. The Weather Service has already put 5+ inches up to Saratoga, expecting winter storm watches to be issued during the night. It may very well be, but again, um, we haven't yet even seen this storm take shape. Once the storm takes shape, and then that'll start happening late tomorrow night, and you'll be able to take some of that data and throw it into the supercomputers, we'll know the true score about this, Joe, probably with the 0Z run tomorrow night, as that storm is starting to wind up and develop. Till up until now, it's just a mathematical assumption that the storm is going to produce what we're saying right now is it intends to produce. So
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll
I'm
see.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to. We're gonna go call these maps up one at a time, because um, I've got now the last 3 weeks I've been working with one monitor. So now I wound up I'm working with three, with two again, and I made a boo boo. So I'll go to my forecast map. And again, I'm kind of looking at this as a base case of what could happen. I anticipate that that the numbers on here are likely to change, and it's quite possible that the max areas could adjust and change. But I sort of went with this idea, and I want to just asterisk a couple of things. First off, for Long Island, um, I've lived here 30 years. I have seen these backside events happen a number of times, and each time it happens, it always winds up being an absolute nightmare trying to forecast it. And so I decided this time around I'm not going to try to forecast it, but if the backside snows materialize in an important way on Tuesday, then those numbers are likely to go up. I think you're going to wind up with basically 6 to 10 inches on Long Island, maybe even a little bit more in some spots on the North Shore. And even if it winds up changing to sleet or even a little bit of rain for a couple of hours, like it did back in the December storm, once the low pulls out to the east, you're going to see that uh, wind, which is never really going to be coming out of a bad direction to begin with, will go around to the north. The temperature will drop a couple of degrees, will go below freezing, and then you'll wind up seeing snow again. In the meantime, I did put up. With the northeast wind the way it is, I decided to go for some max amounts in northern New Jersey. There's a number of models that have kind of indicated that the max snowfall amounts might be a little bit north and west of the immediate coast. There are a number of models that are disagreeing with that notion, and we'll get to those in a second. I have another area of 12 plus in south central Pennsylvania around Harrisburg and points west. I know Noah was asking on the chat board with regards to what about Maryland? Well, you can see Maryland on my map, and I have, as little as maybe 4 or 5 inches as you get a little bit further into south, on a parallel with, say, Baltimore and Washington. Those amounts start to go down, and it's particularly down in the Maryland Eastern Shore. And then, of course, you've got the higher amounts as you go northwest and west, with 10 inches north and west of Baltimore, Washington, and maybe even a foot up in some places up around Hagerstown, for example. And I also pushed the 10-inch line up into upstate New York to about I-90. Um, you see 10 inches or better across Connecticut into Massachusetts, including Boston, and then
See,
the amounts.
Tim Beltman will like you for that.
Yes, I figured he would. There was a couple of things of note, by the way, because you don't see this too often, Joe. So let me bring up Let's go to WPC and their snow forecast map, because I was astounded by this because again, you don't see it very often here. You do see it in the Sierra Nevadas, but you don't see it here. But let's take a look at what the folks there did. Now, the initial map here is going to be the probability of at least two. Okay, so obviously is a fairly high, almost probability, almost certitude. But let's go to four, and again, you can see where the four outline is, and we can now move on. Shall we move on to eight, Joe? Do you think there's going to be anything in eight?
Well, I think eight will still be a fairly high number for at least down here in the Hudson Valley.
And indeed, here's the probability of at least eight. By the way, this goes through Tuesday daytime. It goes into Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock. So this would include some backside, and they're showing an 80% probability or higher of at least eight in northern New Jersey and in south central PA into western Maryland. Do you think there's anything on 12?
I think you're going to see it.
Higher, higher,
No,
higher.
I think it's going to be going down after eight. I think it'll
Well,
be.
I understand, but we don't see probabilities of 12 too often. But look at this. I mean, they're actually forecasting a 70% probability of at least 12 in parts of South Central PA, and a 60 to 70% probability. The darker blue is 40 to 50, so that's 50 to 60. I'm sorry, so 50 to 60. Um, Across northern New Jersey, eastern PA, down into western Maryland. Now, here's one you don't get to see too often, Joe, but look at that. They're actually for a 20 to 30% chance of at least 18 in
Wow.
parts of south central PA, and even a 1 to 5% chance of 24.
Oh, oh,
You don't see that. You really don't see that here. You just don't. Every once in a great while, you'll see a storm um, that you put out some big numbers, but uh, you don't really see them uh, do 18 or 24 or 30. Very rarely. I can think of a few times when they did, but very, very rarely. Um, so there was one other snow map that I wanted to show. I'll bring it up later. I'm so mad now because everything crashed on me. I had everything set up to go. So
this kind of reminds me. I told you this off air, but I did a presentation on Wednesday night. That was part of the reason why our Wednesday show was at 9:30, and this is all I do most of my PowerPoint presentations, or we do it here on Zoom. But this particular presentation on Wednesday was on WebEx, and I took 20 minutes, and finally I just threw up my arms. I had all kinds of transitions and beautiful effects that I was going to use. Couldn't do it. And so basically, what it all boiled down to, I ended up doing my show or my presentation. It was like the equivalent of some guy using an old slide projector and just dropping the slide in manually and then pulling it out manually and putting another slide in. It got very frustrating. So I can empathize with what's happening with you right now with
yes. Oh,
so
it's just it's driving me crazy. Like I said, I had it all set up. Now, I brought up the upper air because I thought this was really interesting. All right, and it goes to show sometimes that not the model doesn't always pick things up, and sometimes things do show up at the last minute. Steve Lapointe's reminding me, by the way, thank you. We have 126 likes. Thank you so much. If you like the show, Joe and I love it if you hit the like button, and we thank you. And you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel by using your Gmail account. You subscribe to it, and then you'll get notifications whenever we do a show, which is usually 5 days a week and Sundays. We normally don't do a show on Saturdays, but we're doing one tonight. So if you're a subscriber, you'll be notified. You won't miss it. Okay, so uh, going back to what I was about to say. So, Joe, this was that second upper low that brought in the cold air, right?
right,
All right,
right.
that came through Thursday night and Friday morning. And by the way, Bill Uber on the chat board will confirm this. That we actually did have some snow showers and some a little bit of that came off of Long Island Sound, a little snow squall that whitened the ground in parts of Suffolk County. So,
Wow.
so yeah.
Well, we talked about that, saying with the entrance of the frigid air coming in on Thursday evening that,
Hmm.
maybe there might be a few flurries or snow showers. Well, there they were.
Right. And they indeed happen. Now, that upper low was supposed to drop off the New England coast, which it did. And here's what wound up happening. So tonight, last night, and this morning, another upper low formed right there in Maine, which was not really modeled very well at all. And that actually becomes very important because with the system approaching eastward, it actually helped to reinforce the cold air for not only today but for tomorrow as well. So that was a little bit of an addition there, and you can see the vigorous shortwave that is moving eastward into the Ohio Valley. This is at 1 a.m. Sunday. It's forming a closed upper low in the Ohio Valley, which then passes off the Virginia coast and then tracks northeastward just to our south and east. And this is important because usually if the track where the track of the upper low, and I'm just drawing the red line of the track of the upper low the way it's forecast by the models, usually the heaviest snow winds up falling about, let's say 100 or 150 miles or so north and west of that upper low track. And most of our area from northeast Virginia to southern New England is going to be in that position through this event. So that the upper low and the track of the upper low is going to be very, very important. It's underneath the block, so it's not being carried along in a fast west to east motion. This is why the surface low is slowing down. The upper low, it doesn't really have the push. There's no upstream system. We were worried about this short wave. Well, it's staying up there, so it's not really kicking this along. So we just have to sit there and wait until it moves, basically on its own forces to finally lift up to the northeast. That even on Thursday, it's still just in the Gulf of Maine. So this thing is crawling, and Joe, that really makes forecasting snow amounts here very, very difficult. It's going to be a real chore here tomorrow and Monday trying to adjust to the character of this upper low and what it may wind up producing in some places.
And that's why I'm thinking already, Joe, that there are going to be more than just a few revisions to forecasts. In a way, it's almost kind of like the old days, if you will, when we had a storm like this, and the Weather Service was always seemingly playing catch up, upping their totals or whatever. They did not have the technology that we have today. But sometimes, even with the most sophisticated technology, at least we're getting a hint that there could be problems with this, particular system slowing down. And yeah, if it slows down to a crawl, or even if it, as I said, idles in neutral gear for several hours on Monday night, that only can mean one thing. That means the snow just keeps on coming, and if it keeps on coming and spills over into Tuesday, the snow amounts are likely to be higher.
Right. And here's the latest, the late afternoon GFS. Uh, the primary low moving through southern Indiana, northern Kentucky, dies out in West Virginia. So there's your secondary, and you can see uh, GFS has been picking up out multiple vortices out there. You can see them with those closed little circles, those closed isobars. It has multiple lows out there. The westernmost low, closest to the upper low, is pinned near the Delaware coast, and you see the rotation. It just it stretches out. One low pulls out to the east. That long fetch of snow that comes from Maine and goes all the way back down into northern Virginia. And now here we are Tuesday afternoon and Tuesday evening. There's still snow going on in New Jersey, on Long Island, in the Hudson Valley, in Connecticut, Massachusetts. It's the light color snow, but don't let that fool you because I've seen that, and then it winds up in reality that you get moderate snow out of that sometimes. It's not the advection. That dark blue snow is as a result of the advection, and then you get that lighter blue snow. That actually could wind up produce intensity as well. And then finally, it moves away. And yeah, the wind here, the gradient is very, very tight. It's a good thing we don't have a full moon this week. We had it last week. It's a good thing we don't have
We have
one
a
this
full moon,
week.
Joe. We had a full moon 2 days ago, Joe.
So when's the peak tide? Is that today?
Well, the peak tide would be happening right now because there's a tidal lag, if you will, with the actual phase of the moon. So usually a
Right,
day or two after full, which is tonight or now,
right.
we're getting the peak in terms of the astronomically higher
Well,
tides.
being that this is going to be for tomorrow night, Monday, that extra day, will be coming off the peak, which is a good thing. And then, of course, it pulls on out. Eventually, as I said, it pulls away and moves on out toward the northeast. I'm going to bring up the satellite loop because you always get clues by what the signature is on the satellite, and actually, when you look at this on the loop, uh, it's got that twist to it. So you look at this, that we're talking about a rather strong shortwave. This is the third one in the last week, and this is most definitely the strongest one of the bunch as it moves away. That's impressive looking, is it not? I mean, that
Very
really is
powerful.
impressive shortwave.
I love how when these things really begin to wind up, it almost looks like a giant question mark because you're asking questions like, all right, so now what are we going to get out of this, out of this whole ball of wax? But yeah, and tomorrow night, folks who are watching the satellite picture will begin to see the clouds beginning to brighten, the higher cloud tops beginning to develop along the coast in advance of the secondary storm forming somewhere near the mid-Atlantic coastline tomorrow night. And Joe, there might even be some thunderstorm activity, perhaps.
I was thinking about that. You know what? I wanted to show you this. Hang on. I'm going to bring up was it the GFS or the NAM Omega? But I was impressed by this. Hang on a second. Maybe it was the NAM, but even the GFS, as I just brought it up.
The F Gen.
I have that. This is the GFS 700 millibar. Um, uh, FGen means frontogenesis. So this really shows up so well in that darker purple. This is Monday night, right over Long Island and over southern New England. This is the one area that's going to see that burst of heavy snow for at least a few hours, where it could snow pretty hard with that FGen. I thought the Omega was very impressive looking.
Well, that's going to be another key here because the up until now the GFS has been keeping that basically right along or just south of Long Island and southern New England. Meantime, the NAM has been bringing that in
Yeah, look
through
at this.
flashes of
I got the NAM one up now.
yeah,
Look at
yeah,
that.
yeah. And look how tight the lines are. It's so tight it doesn't look like purple contour lines. It looks like one big purple blob. And all of that is atmospheric energy. And yeah, and that could very well translate into some rumbles of thunder and some bursts of precipitation. So this actually, what we may be seeing, in terms of intensity, the peak of the storm might be later in the day or midday and late day on Monday, depending upon how this F-gen line, the Omega area, sets up relative to the coast.
You think a little lightning or thunder out of this with that kind of Omega?
Oh my goodness!
Look at the. By the way, look at the 850 Omega, because I think we could. This has value considering we're talking about snow, and usually the tops for snow are only at about nine or maybe go up to 700 millibars. Sometimes they don't go much above that. But I mean, the 850 Omega is also very impressive.
Yeah, yeah. And there were a couple of people who have been in the business for quite some time. One of them I spoke with on the phone on Friday morning, and he was totally unaware because he uses tropical tidbits. And I said, well, if you really want to see where the energy is and where, possibly convective activity or where the storm intensifies, go to the F-gen. He said, the what? I said, the F-gen. It's on the and I think you were the one who showed me where the F-gen was, Joe, because
Yeah,
I used to go to the
the
NC
Ancept site.
at the Ensemble site to find the omega, and it was always hard because they showed it on top of the green 70+% relative humidity on the 700, and then you have these brown contours which kind of blend in, so to speak. I said, man, this is hard on the eyes, but this is so much easier to see the FGen line here on the NAM and the GFS. So there you go, folks. If you hear some rumbles of thunder on Monday, you'll know where it's coming from.
Uh, Let me just also acknowledge David Fuller for hitting super chat and also Joe's Weather Channel. This is another Joe.
Is another
Joe's
Joe?
Yes, another Joe. Joe's Weather Channel on the board hitting super chat. He said, "When I was 6 and I started to like weather, my parents started to tell me about you and saw you on TV, and I'm grateful for that ever since. That you made me fall in love with weather. Now I'm going to try to become a meteorologist." That's I'll assume that since it's both all three of us are Joes, that you're talking about the both of us. So, but thank you.
Well,
That is so kind of you to say. I really, very, very, very nice. And and Joe would agree with me by by saying that it's
it,
wonderful if we inspired you. That's terrific. That is awesome.
it makes you feel kind of weird. I remember it was in 2006, they had the very first weather conference at WestCon in Connecticut. It was on a Saturday, and mingling with the people, and somebody came up to me and said, "I just want to tell you something." I said, "Yeah." He said, "I got into meteorology before because of you." And I said, "Oh, thank you very much. That's a nice to say, or whatever." He said, "When I was 5 years old, I used to listen to you on on WGSM out in Huntington, Long
I
Island."
listened to you for all these many years.
And I said, "Well, thank you very much for making me feel like an old timer all of a sudden."
Yes. I sort of did that in a conversation with Jack Cafferty when I first met him and Sal Marciano, who was
Yeah.
doing sports. So I didn't mean it the way it sounded, but that's kind of how it came out. Uh,
Well, and if you've ever read the book by the late Jim Bouton, Ball Four, the first time he ever had a chance to say hello to Willie Mays, and Jim Bouton was a big New York Giant fan when the Giants were playing in the Polo Grounds and Willie Mays was there. And he goes up to Willie Mays, shakes his hand. He says, "I've admired you. I've idolized you ever since I was a kid." And Willie's face, by that time, he was like 37 years old. And Willie's face falls and says, "Hey, why did you have to say that? Why couldn't you just say, it's great meeting you?" He said, "Now you make me feel like an old man."
oh, good lord!
And another
It's always I
and
never.
another player, Tommy Davis, a teammate of Jim Bouton, says, "And you know what, Willie? He's only 36."
Oh, good lord! I always say whatever somebody says. I know they don't mean it in a bad way.
Yes.
You certainly know when they do. So 99% of the time they don't. Radar looping away again. Oh, look at the signature on the radar of this shortwave, and that leading edge, that arm of snow, is showing up pretty much how. I'll bring the NAM up, the NAM surface again, and you can see it lines up pretty well. This is a range where the NAM should work well. And you in storms, you and I have used this many times. I actually got into a big fight with somebody who criticized me for using the NAM back a number of years ago, and I responded but my response to that is, the bottom line is getting the forecast right. And if you use if I like the NAM because I understand the NAM. I've worked with it so much that I kind of know what it likes to do and what it doesn't like to do, and that's oftentimes that's part of the puzzle. And the other thing is, we're not here to model cast; we're here to forecast. So
Right.
you do the things, you look for the things that help you get the forecast right. Who cares which model you use? I thought it was one of the more insane, silly arguments that I had with somebody over that. But there's the radar, and this is, of course, we're at just coming up on 8 o'clock Eastern time, and this is the NAM for. Let's go to 8 o'clock Eastern times. I mean, not too bad. Look at that. It matches up pretty well. So you kind of you look for those clues, so this way you can say, hey, if the NAM is handling this so far, it's perfectly reasonable to make the assumption that it's going to continue to handle things
The,
relatively well.
the thing is, now you're looking at the 12 kilometer. How did the 3 kilometer handle it?
Oh, that's a good question. So let's look at the 3 kilometer, which is usually great for thunderstorms. But even the 3 kilometer NAM does shows up pretty well. And I'm going to roll this along because I did.
Look at that. That's great.
Yeah, I did. This is going to take us through only 60 hours, but now we're at
Did you just see, by the way, how that happened as it's approaching our area? All
right.
of a sudden, that first batch of
dies
precip
out.
that
Yes,
breaks out.
that's the dry
Yeah,
air.
yeah.
That's the cold, dry air. This is at 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon. Now the second batch pulls up and makes it to about New York City. This is at 10 o'clock. There's your secondary on the 3 kilometer NAM. And now you watch that arm of heavy precip coming into the coast. Look at that dark blue there, moving into Long Island and northern New Jersey late Monday morning, early Monday afternoon. And then you
Right.
get a little bit of rain, just a little bit of rain comes in there, and then the blue comes back, and then a little bit more rain, and then you start to see
That
that
dark
low
blue,
pull
Joe,
southward.
that's the FGen we were just talking about.
Yes.
How the NAM is trying to push that through Long Island and even up inland from New York City. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's it.
And we can't get the 3K doesn't go out much further than this. So, at the end of the day, we're at the point, in my view. This is like, we're going to look at models, obviously, uh, going along. In fact, you know what, Joe, we have an opportunity here to use them. Le
The
plumes. The
plumes.
chairman reminded me. He was on the chat board. He put something about the plumes. So he will bring up Le Plume de la Brioski. This is
I
a
love
this comes out of
Rich Rontmansky. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Perfect. Joe, Rich says the LFM would have nailed this.
yeah. So of course, God loved the LFM because nobody else did. Um, so the plumes are a Stony Brook model, and there are 26 members, or however many members there are, and that black line is the average. There's so many different parameters that you could look at. You could look at temperature. You could look at 3-hourly temperature, 3-hourly snowfall, QPF, uh, uh, quantitative precipitation, totals, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we're looking at the snowfall. I've got it here set for the snowfall, and you go on the black line is the average. So it gives. This was the last run of the plumes, the SREF, which was at 3 o'clock this afternoon. So the next one's coming out in an hour and 15 minutes. So I don't think we're going to be still on the air for that. Uh, I don't use these numbers literally. What I look for on the SREF is to see whether the numbers are up or down from the previous run.
Now,
If
which station are you
so,
using?
this is New York City,
Okay.
and it's been giving about 10 to 12 on the SREF runs that have been very consistent. So on the last one, it gave 10.27 for New York City as a total. Islip Islip came down a little. It's at 7.5 on this one, and then you can also see how there's a bunch of members. There are a number of members of this model that are above that. In fact, there's one that goes all the way up to 20 inches. So you just kind of take the mean. Uh, there's the old saying, though, is that if you use averages, then you're going to get average results, and there is some truth to that. White Plains. Ooh, I got to bring the chart down because the thing jump was so high, Joe. 11.27 for White Plains. Um,
Okay.
Poughkeepsie, Poughkeepsie, 12 point, what was it? 12.43. We'll go down. Philadelphia, 6.77. Southeast PA is a funny place because a lot of times the models show big snows happening there, and they always wind up getting about half that what the models are saying. That's why I did not go off the deep end. There are some models that are giving big double-digit amounts for southeastern PA down into south central PA and even into Maryland, but I'm very cautious, and I don't like to use the snowfall forecast maps anyway. You can cherry pick whichever one you want. So whichever Armageddon you choose, you can find the map to match your tragedy. 6.19. What did I click on? Did I click on Wilmington or Philadelphia? Hold on. Let's
I think you
go.
were Philly.
Wilmington is 5.55. Northeast of Baltimore is 5.78. South of Baltimore, southwest of Baltimore, 5.83. And let's look at DC, Washington DC, forecasting at 6.28. And how about we look at Harrisburg? Uh, Harrisburg, I drove through Harrisburg last night and had a snow shower, 9.85. So just a sampling of numbers from what the SREF model is doing. And again, we don't take it literally. We look for trends. So when the next one comes out in an hour, we look to see if those numbers go up or if or if they're going down. And if you get 3 or 4 runs in a row where the SREF numbers are going up, it's kind of telling you that to be careful with your forecast, that you might have to raise your numbers, uh, whatever they happen to be.
And also, if you go to the on the plumes, the SREPs, the 3 hours, 3 hourly snow,
Okay,
and
I'll do
and
that.
in, and in that case, where you see the peak, I presume, will be when the intensity of or rate of fall of the snow will apparently be greatest. And most of the places that we're looking at, Joe, New York, Philadelphia, Poughkeepsie, they all seem to be honing in on around 15 to 18 to 21Z. So this model seems to be suggesting that we're going to see the greatest amount of action out of this in terms of snow, and that corresponds to the passage of that the FGen area.
Right.
So
All right.
who
So
knows? You know,
yeah.
we might see some. This the reason why it peaks or spikes is that maybe it's picking up on some convective activity.
Well, here, this is Harrisburg. So Harrisburg has a peak tomorrow from it starts to rise and reaches over 1 inch an hour. That occurs between 1 p.m. and about 7 p.m. it reaches the peak. Then it drops down. There's a second peak on Monday. Starts to rise after 7 a.m. Peaks somewhere around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Notice it's a long peak here. You have 3 periods here where you're probably getting moderate snow at 1 inch an hour, and then it kind of slopes downward from there. Let's take a look. Let's go up further north. Let's go where there's uh, some of the bigger numbers. So let's take New York City, LaGuardia, for example. So here, um, you've got this peak, Joe, for LaGuardia. It actually goes to moderate snow at LaGuardia on the SREF Monday morning at 1 a.m. And it's moderate pretty much all day. Then it starts to kind of lighten up a bit as we move into the nighttime period, drops off a bit, and then it continues on a light rate after that, moving into Tuesday morning, and then you can see it just kind of it's above the flat line, but there are a number of members that are even higher than this. But
I,
there's
I,
your peak there.
no, my question now is, for example, I'm looking at the same thing you are, and at 12Z it says mean equals 1.41. So does 1.41 here on this model say that the snow will be coming down at the rate of 1.41 inches per hour for 3 hours, or is that the total spread out across 3 hours?
You know what? I'm not sure about that. That might be spread out over 3 hours, so maybe it isn't the rate. But either way, it's still snowing at a pretty good clip. Yeah,
If
I
you put your cursor over each category, a box comes up. So this one says 3 hour snowfall forecast in inches. So what does that mean? Is that 3 hour? Is that the amount over 3 hours? Or,
1.71 in 3 hours. Maybe
yeah,
that's well. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's the actual snowfall in the 3 hour period or if it's the rate. Because of the 3 hour period before, it's 1.39.
yeah.
And I've got islip here, and you notice, Joe, there's like this V. But what's also odd here, which doesn't make sense to me, is the fact that now again we're looking at the mean, so you have to be really careful with this. But if your maximum FGen is occurring late in the afternoon and early evening, you should see a spike, and actually a number of the members do spike to as high as 4. So
Right.
and there's a couple of them that are a few of them that go up above 3
Right.
in that time frame. And yet there were a bunch of them where there's actually one member that drops down to 0. Everything ends at about 10 o'clock, 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning on Monday, and then you don't see a flake or an ice pellet since then. You could actually overwhelm yourself, by the way. I would just put this advice out to young forecasters. It's okay not to look at stuff. All right. You can overwhelm yourself with so much information that then you're so confused. It's like, you've decided that you're going to this is what you're going to forecast, and then you look at something else that, and suddenly you think, well, maybe my original conclusion was wrong. You're never going to get to the point where you're going to have to make your forecast if you keep looking at things. So yeah, be careful. It's okay to say, you know what, I'll pass on this. I don't look at the SREF. I'll look at it from time to time, but as it happened today, I looked at it after I made my forecast anyway. So you can go nuts looking at all this stuff.
Yep, sure can.
Ugh. So I had everything set up. I want to get to. Let me bring up the digital weather again because I want to show at least what's going on right now. And this is going to take a moment to load. Let me fix it up so it looks pretty the way I like it, with the counties on there and the satellite
Oh, wait a minute,
background.
Richard Melichar. I think that's how you pronounce it, right?
I believe it's is it Melicar?
Melichar.
Yeah, I think it's
He said,
Melicar.
seriously, guys, sun angle and ground temperature is important.
Thank you, Richard. You made my day. You made my day. Oh, good Lord. All right, I just wanted to pull up all the winter storm watches and winter storm warnings that are up at the moment. And actually, you know what? Never mind. Let's bring up the total new snow. I'll bring up the watches and warnings someplace else. So I want to at least acknowledge what's going on in the Midwest around Chicago. They had 10 the other day. They're getting another 8 now out of this system, and you can see the east-west band with the primary producing anywhere from 4 to 8 inches from northern Illinois, northern Indiana, central Ohio. My daughter's in Columbus, so she's going to get about half a foot of snow there. Then you see what the Weather Service officers are forecasting for Western Virginia and Western North Carolina, some 6-inch amounts. And guess what? Even some snow. I had snow. No, I was down in Georgia where I was in northeast Georgia in the mountains, 2,500 feet of elevation, and it snowed 3 times while I was there in the last 2.5 weeks. But here's what the offices are forecasting for Pennsylvania, for Maryland. Looks like 6 to 8 inches mostly from northeastern Virginia and Maryland, and then 10, 12-inch amounts in Pennsylvania, central and eastern Pennsylvania to about New York City. A Weather Service local New York office forecasting 13 there, 11 up at Poughkeepsie, 6 for Albany. The numbers have been goosed up in upstate New York, and also in down east Maine, because they are going to see that when that low pulls out. I'm not down east Maine, I'm sorry, coastal Maine, down into eastern Massachusetts, where there could be a band of 1 foot plus snows going on there once the low lifts up far enough north. So this is going to be an ample snow producer. And let me just I'll bring up the current hazards from the Weather Service, and we'll plot them all on one map here for you. I'll get rid of this. Should have another night tonight with temperatures down in the teens and single digits, I think.
It was 8 degrees this morning at my
Oh,
house.
that's
At
awful.
7:37 a.m., 8 degrees at the home base. Joe, it was so cold that Superman froze his S off.
Yes, very good. Winter storm warnings up for western North Carolina, including Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Asheville's in a winter weather advisory. Raleigh, Durham in a winter weather advisory. So is Greensboro. Richmond in a winter weather advisory in Virginia. But Blacksburg, Roanoke, Lynchburg, Staunton, Harrisonburg, Charlottesville, all under winter storm warnings for several to many inches. Virtually the whole state of Maryland under a winter storm warning. We've got winter weather advisories. The southern 2 counties of Delaware and the southern part of the Delmarva Peninsula, winter storm warning for northern Delaware. Most of New Jersey, except for Sussex, which is still under a winter storm watch. The 2 northeastern counties in Pennsylvania, including Scranton, under a winter storm watch. Advisories for southeast Jersey. Winter storm watches up for, as I said, that area, northern Jersey, Sussex, Bergen, Passaic, Long Island, New York City, Connecticut, the lower and middle Hudson Valley, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and on up into New Hampshire and Maine, all under a storm watch. And they'll likely go to a warning tomorrow, assuming that the models don't do anything utterly, radical from what they've been doing. And we'll have a really large area of warnings to contend with when we go on tomorrow. So I was going to ask you about that, by the way. So we do our Sunday show at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So we're going to do it at our regular time tomorrow, you think?
So instead of doing it with Coffee and Joe at 11 o'clock in the morning, you want to move it to
No,
7:30?
no, no. I'm asking you. I mean, maybe we should do it. Maybe we should keep it at our regular time.
Oh, I think so. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll already have tomorrow at 11 o'clock. We'll be in the midst of getting the 12Z run. We will already have the new overnight run to look at. So yeah, I think that would be probably the best thing to do. You know,
Okay. So
not break, let's not
tomorrow's
break
show will be
tradition.
at 11 o'clock Eastern time. I want to remind those of you those of you watching tonight that are on my weather platform on Patreon, which is patreon.com/meteorologist Joe Chaffee. It's a subscription platform. We're gonna do a weather Zoom tomorrow night for members only. So we'll have a nice conversation, and this is as everything is getting underway, or will have already been underway in some places. I'll be posting links about that tomorrow. Bill Northrup. I got to reach over. You know what? I got to pull this window where I can see it. I can't see it over there.
Yes, I
So
know. Bill got on Super Chats tonight. I saw that.
Bill Northrup, Jason Kaplan, all the fun family channel with Aiden and Scarlin hitting super chat tonight. Cliotech hit super chat. And then, of course, we had David Fuller and Joe's Weather Channel all hitting super chat tonight. Joe and I are most appreciative of that. Thank you so very much for doing that.
Uh,
And I'm trying to think:
Cliotech apparently
is there
he has
anything else
he
we need to
apparently has
go over?
access to the 18Z European.
Ooh, yeah, go
Cliotech
ahead. Can
did.
you do that? And then you
What?
could. Do you want to get the 18Z and then
I could get the 18Z. I can't show you snow. He says it is showing above 24 inches for Cannes/Northwest Jersey.
what,
What's
the
Cannes?
18Z? There's no snow map for the 18Z that I know of.
No, I get precipitation amounts, but I don't get snow amounts
All
on
right,
that.
well we can work with that. Let me hang on. I gotta set this so that you can share. Go ahead. I forgot to
I
do
have to
that at the
I have to
beginning.
call it up first, Joe.
Yeah, I understand that. Shall we play?
Uh,
I could play a musical interlude in the meantime.
da, 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 da.
Right. Do do
Um,
do 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 do. Da 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 da
all
da
right,
da
so
da da da
let's
da.
see. We just want to move this over there.
Portions of the Joe Rayo Show are brought to you by.
All right, so do that there and hit share, and there you go. That's there you go for
So this is the 18Z European.
right.
Okay.
And so this is starting, it's initialized at 18Z. This is 0Z Sunday. This is 7 o'clock this evening. And then we go to 1 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, 7 a.m. on Sunday. Of course, the green is the area. The green corresponds to over 0.15 inch
Of
precipitation
liquid.
amounts. Yeah, liquid. And as we move along here, still at 0Z, at least in the immediate New York area, nothing yet. And then at 6Z, finally at 6Z, we get into the bare bones of, let's
Right.
say, a few hundredths of an inch. And now we're in the green, so that we're talking. Look at all the heavy duty stuff that
Just to the
stays just
south.
to
Yeah.
the south and to
So
the
this
east.
is so we're up to 12Z now.
This is 12Z, 7 a.m. on Monday.
Right.
Now that's interesting. I haven't seen that before. An area of yellow, that's between 0.5 and 0.56 liquid inches in liquid precipitation, which would fall between 7 o'clock in the morning and 1 o'clock in the afternoon across central New Jersey. Here's the 540 here. So, depending upon how you look at this, over here there may be some sleet, or maybe even maybe a little bit of plain rain. Further inland, I guess from about Trenton and points north and west, that's heavy duty stuff that's coming down.
Right.
Okay, so that's so now we're up to 7 p.m. on Monday night. And that's look at all that heavy duty stuff that's lying back over eastern Pennsylvania, Joe.
Yeah, well, this model has been. Some of the models have been emphasizing that, and other models have it in a different spot. So it's again, it makes for a very very difficult forecast here. The European and the parallel GFS today, they went crazy with some of the snow amounts, especially late this afternoon and the late afternoon run. So go ahead.
And take a look here. Here's your 540 line, which cuts to just south of Boston and literally now has moved right across New York City to the sound shore of Westchester, believe it or
Right.
not, and then almost diagonally cuts or slices the state of New Jersey from northeast to southwest to almost to Philadelphia. So one would have to assume, if this is taken at face value, that all of this here is either snow mixed with sleet or maybe snow mixed with sleet and rain.
Right.
That would be again for 7 o'clock in the evening on your Monday. Then 1 a.m. on Tuesday, 7 a.m. on Tuesday. Now all the heavy duty stuff looks like it's, according to the European, pushing off to the north and east.
Which makes sense. And now you're getting the backside stuff with the collapsing 540, and there's
Right.
still precip going on. I mean, it's indicated to be mostly light back through Pennsylvania. And
It's,
here we
it's
are. This is what at Tuesday
7,
evening. You still have a
7
lot
p.m.
going on.
7 p.m. Tuesday evening. And even, look at this, that there's still
1
stuff,
a.m. Wednesday.
1 a.m. Wednesday. And this is, I guess this is it. Although there's a lot of hangback stuff now over central New York State. I'm not sure if that has anything to do with lake effect or whatever, but you could be assured that by now, Wednesday morning at 7 a.m., it's over.
Right.
It really
Oftentimes,
is.
oftentimes, I've always used this. Could be one of those instances where I used to like to use what I used to call the half double rule, where the model tends to overdo the advection ahead of it. So you take the precip amounts and you cut those back by about 50%, and then you take the backside precip that it produces and you double it. And when you put them together, you wind up with the number that you want to go for your total snowfall forecast. And I found that it works with upper lows because of the structure of the system that where you do get backside involves an upper low, and I find that you can do pretty well in terms of trying to getting a final snow number by doing that, by taking that lead stuff down and doubling the backside. Which I want to ask you this question because I want to get your sense of this. Uh, I was looking at the FOOS, the numerical data of the NAM model,
Right.
particularly looking at the temperatures. And I did notice now this run coming up, the run that's coming up at 9, that starts at about half an hour or so. The FOOS from that is going to carry us through to Tuesday morning. So it's going to be really, really important to get a gauge of what the NAM is doing. But one of the things I did notice, for example, that on the prior runs, it's pretty cold going into Monday evening. Even though, and the thicknesses on the NAM were below 540, but the temperatures are below freezing at all three critical levels. So I'm trying to get a gauge with regards to, well, okay, how much mixing is really going to occur along some coastal areas,
Well, you
particularly.
bring up a good point, and the 40, and the 18Z, the FOOS for the NAM only goes as far as 48 hours. That takes us out to what, 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday.
Right.
And I noticed that the T1, the bottom layer of the atmosphere, the boundary level at T1 is 99 or -1 Celsius. I mean, not quite up to zero, which would be a significant, because that would seem to suggest then a changeover maybe at the lowest levels to plain rain. But it's getting there. It's
Yeah.
getting there, and all that needs to happen now on tonight's run for the NAM is to give it one more push, so to speak, a little
I,
further to the north and east.
yeah, I give it to, if it goes to +1, yes. If it's at 0, I'm okay with it. If it's
Yeah,
at 0, if it's -1, I'm certainly okay with it. That T1. But the layers above it don't seem to be close enough to go. The T2 and the T3 look cold, and they
right.
look to stay cold. So
Look,
so I'm going to be really curious at what the NAM produces tonight, which I said is going to start in about 30 minutes or so.
right,
All
right.
right.
By the
So
way, I noticed on the chat board a very familiar name, and
where?
I'm wondering if it is the person who I'm thinking of. We have on the chat board Audrey Puente. Could that be
No.
could that be Audrey
Really?
Puente, the famous on-camera meteorologist at Fox Channel 5?
Where I don't where is it?
I You have to back up a little bit, I think. I saw her name come up a few minutes ago, but it's there. I mean, trust me, Joe. There is an Audrey Puente there,
Well,
and
if
I'm
it's
just
the
wondering if it
Audrey
is.
Puente, we are Joe. Boy, that's terrific. That's wonderful. I hope you're writing everything down. Just kidding.
Ah,
Just
I had
kidding.
the I had the pleasure of sitting with Audrey and Craig Allen and a few other local meteorologists at an AMS conference back. Oh my goodness,
Oh, there
man,
she is. Yeah.
20 years ago. 20 years ago. So, Audrey, if it is you, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
That's so cool. That is really, really
Yeah,
cool. I am,
yes.
yes. Now, if Lonnie Quinn would join in too, he's lurking in the background.
I did send, believe it or not, I did send Lonnie a link to our show tonight and said it's a special Saturday night Joe and Joe. So in case he's out there, Lonnie, how you doing? Who knows who's out there who's quietly watching, but from the local area, but they're not saying anything.
Oh,
So
there's a
whoever's
few.
out there,
There's
we
a
thank
few
you
of
for
them
watching
there's a few of them that lurk in the background.
tonight.
Listen, but we always have a standing open invitation, and I always put it out there that you and I are very gentle.
Oh, and look, there indeed. Audrey says, "Ha ha, yes, I'm here. I love the Joes." Ah,
Thank you, Audrey. Thank you so much. Really, I kid around, and I have this sort of dark sense of humor, but in all seriousness, it's a thrill to have you on here. Just so you know, it is an
and
absolute thrill to have you on here.
let me
She's
mention
been in
also
the New
somebody.
York more
Let me
that,
mention to somebody who we used to work with, Joe, and you know full well. Norm Devoskin was a big
yes,
fan of Audrey's father,
yes.
Tito. I mean, he was big into Latin American music, and
Yeah, because
sometimes I think
Norm was, he was big on he was a big dancer.
that's right. That's once I actually walked into the weather office at News 12 Long Island when we were all working together there, and he had I think Tio Puente music playing in the
Oh
background.
yeah.
And I said, Norm, you like this music? He says, I love it. I love it. I
Oh,
love
Norm
it.
loved it. He taught. Yeah, he loved Tito Puente's
Yeah,
music. Just using it.
yeah.
Yeah. This is so cool. This is so very cool. All right. Um, I don't. I think we pretty much kind of wrapped up everything we were going to say. I didn't look at the long range. I have no idea what's going on. I don't know if the block comes back because whenever there's a big storm, I always just kind of stay front and center with what's going on. Steve Lapointe hitting super chat tonight. Thanks, Steve. Thank you very much, and thank you for your support too. Steve's always reminding me to make sure we tell folks to hit the like button. It brings the unlike button hitters out too, but who cares about them? 272 likes tonight, Joe. So a lot of people tuning in on a
Right.
Saturday night to watch us. So that's great, and
And
thank
the
you
thing
very
that I
much.
have, and the question I have to ask you is, how much of a change in our thought processes for what we're thinking now for this storm? How much of that is going to change come tomorrow when we go on at 11 o'clock, already having looked at the 0Z run, the overnight run, and having the new run slowly but surely, trickle out?
Yeah,
Is
usually it's funny, and I only know this for myself in hindsight. Is usually around to, today or yes, I actually sort of made up my mind last night what I was thinking in terms of what to go for, and my original thinking was to sort of broad brush a 6 to 10 inch area of snow. And then this morning, as I looked at some stuff, I said, you know what? I see some of the models with some of these ridiculous double-digit numbers, which I would never put out in a forecast. By the way, I don't think anybody really can do that. Um, who knows ahead of time? Like, who knew ahead of time that Binghamton was going to get 40 inches back in December? You just can't. You just don't. You just can't forecast that. You can't do it. So I decided, though, looking at those numbers, let me say 6 to 10. I'll go 6 to 12. I think that's to cover sort of a broad brush, and then I kind of figured it out with the way I drew the snowfall forecast map. But again, uh, I think this situation is one of those that you could wind up with. I think there might even be a few downside surprises in some places. There'll be places that you think might be getting some big numbers, and then they wind up getting less. So there might be surprises at both ends, but I think there'll probably be more upside surprises than downside surprises out of this.
And for all of you out there, all of you naysayers, who were just a week or so ago saying, "Hey, Rayo, you said it was going to be a backloaded winter. What happened?" Guess what? We cross over the halfway point of winter officially, I think, is on Wednesday, Joe. So get ready. As I said, that one statistic that stands out at Central Park, that all the winters, all the Decembers in the record at Central Park, where more than 7.5 inches of snow has fallen in that month. And there have been 9 such cases. 9 out of 9, Central Park ends up with, for the winter season, 40 inches or more of snow. We have a little over 10 now. We're a quarter of the way there. We may only be halfway there after this storm is
Yeah,
all
depending what the
done.
final numbers are.
Yeah,
Some places, if they wind up doing really well, they could have their normal snowfall for the year already done.
we'll see.
Um, oh, my buddy Junior is on. I don't know if you might not notice this. Let me see if you could see it better here. So, Junior gave me this. Uh, the Office of Emergency Management in. Can you see it, Joe?
Bayonne,
Yes.
OEM, Bayonne
From
OEM,
Bayonne, New Jersey.
the
Uh,
Bayonne bunch.
Edu-
They went up against
Eduardo
that was the
Ferrante
team.
Jr., thank you so much.
That was the team that went up against Ralph and Norton and the
Yeah,
Raccoons,
exactly.
and Ralph threw out his back.
Exactly. Well, Eduardo is junior to me because he says I could call him Junior, and he's a great guy. So I just want to,
Thank you, Eduardo.
he gave me this shirt. I gave a talk to Bayonne OEM, two of them, and David Fuller asking about thunder snow. You wonder, Joe, just to go over it one more time, with all that omega that was showing up. Um, it wouldn't be a shocker if we wind up hearing a little bit of thunder somewhere.
This storm is going to presumably, as it begins developing off the mid-Atlantic coast tomorrow night and begins moving north and east and really starts to wind up and intensify. And the benchmark of so many intensifying storms is thunder and lightning. And what is that website that you have that you can actually see thunder storms?
Oh, good lord!
Although would that work
I
out
have it.
over the
Hold on,
ocean?
hold on, hold on. Go ahead. You keep yapping. I'll remember it.
I mean,
Uh,
that would work over the ocean too, right? If
oh
they
yeah,
had,
no, wherever they got the sensors that are there. Hold on. Let me see if I can cut the link. Um, oh, good. I used to be able to.
well, Joe, we're getting old, so
Oh my God, this is really. Oh, lightningmaps.org. Lightningmaps.org.
So there you go. On Monday, all of you go to lightningmaps.org and watch that and watch the maps and everything. Because I have a feeling on Monday, if not over Long Island and New York City proper, just offshore, we're going to be seeing a lot of flashes as the
Yes.
storm starts to wind up. And again, the plumes peaking sometime during the day on Monday, that also seems to signify that we are going to be seeing some kind of convective activity taking place. So,
By the way, a couple of people are asking about blizzard warnings. Don't get too wrapped up in that. It's a technical thing. But they don't do just to remind you, they don't do blizzard watches anymore. And it's a good thing they don't, because it was a bit of a fiasco back a few years ago when they put one up and it didn't happen, and it got a few people upset. Or in some places it did happen and others didn't. I don't know what the story was. I don't remember what the story was, but the bottom line was they got rid of the blizzard watch, so they will only issue blizzard warnings, which means it's like a severe thunderstorm warning in a sense. It's when it's happening they'll put it up, and that's it. They're not going to put up blizzard watches because it causes too much angst,
Right.
and the social media weather fiends just run with it anyway, so they make it even worse. So they got rid of it. And by the way, if Audrey, if you're still here, just to let you know, you have an open invitation to come on the show anytime you
Oh,
want.
love to.
Please,
We'd
we'd love
love
to
to.
have you on. Um, you know, just we'll shoot you an email. We'll shoot you an email and arrange it.
You
So
know,
we,
I asked Nick Gregory, if he would come on, and he said he had to check first with the powers that be at Fox 5, because I guess they're concerned that, and
oh
you and I both know,
please.
Joe, we had to do the same thing when we were working
Yeah,
at
you know what?
Numerical.
It's just
You know,
nonsense.
they
It's just
were,
they want to have power over you.
yeah,
Is what that is.
they
It's
were
just
so
nonsense.
concerned that
They
you might
love
say
the
something.
management loves that you come and beg. You beg them to do something that would actually, be a
Benefit
positive
them.
for you and not. Uh, anyway, that's TV. I don't want to get anybody into any trouble. I can say what I want because I'm no longer working in that horrible business. So I can fry them all as far as I'm concerned. But
The
seriously,
executive, the executive producer says over 300 likes this evening. Wow, thank you, everyone.
yes,
Thank you, Renata.
yes, very much so. Okay, so tomorrow I'm sorry, tomorrow 11 a.m. Eastern time for our regular Sunday morning Joe and Joe weather show, and we'll see you then. All right, thanks everybody for being here. Oh, and thank you, Adam Toxin, for sharing the link on Tri-State Weather. So thank you to all the Tri-State Weather folks. Brad DeBauer hitting super chat from Canada tonight. Thank you very
Wow.
much. Thank you very much indeed. So we'll see you tomorrow at 11 o'clock Eastern time.
And Adam, have a meatball on me tonight.
Yes. Good night, everybody.
Good night.